Cinema Classics is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center at 1550 North High Street in Columbus, Ohio. Further details and showtimes online at gatewayfilmcenter.com.
The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org. I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Johnny DiLoretto. This is Cinema Classics,
Yep.
and we're at Gateway Film Center.
Of course we are.
And you want to talk this week about R-rated comedies.
Yeah, I picked up something on the wire services about how R-rated comedies were not doing well this summer. So I thought we might explore what's going on this summer and perhaps give some reasoning as to why they're going down. And the best example is Vacation.
Right, which everybody thought was going to be a big hit.
Right.
And even when the trailer came out, it was well received. People thought, oh, this looks really funny.
Right.
Ed Helms taking over for Chevy Chase with Christina Applegate as the new wife.
But it's full of crap, so to speak.
And literally.
I know. And the first weekend it did 35% less than the analysts had predicted. And these people are pretty good at doing that. So that's a big, whereas, and you can juxtapose that with Mission Impossible, which did much better than anybody had predicted. And that's not a comedy.
Not an R-rated comedy.
And exactly the point. It is not R-rated.
So here's the thing. Here's my first take on this whole thing, is I just think, and we may have talked about this at some point earlier, John, but comedies aren't what they used to be. And I always hate to fall into that, like, nostalgic kind of, train of thought. But, I always say, when is the last time you saw, like, a comedy like Tootsie? Like a comedy that had great characterization, that had a great plot, that had some depth and nuance, and you don't. And all these R-rated comedies, I think people are just getting tired of them.
We started with Entourage. What a big disappointment this summer.
No one even wanted that movie.
And then Magic Mike, which I thought was disappointing to a lot of people who had big expectations for this kind of soft porn, males, females, and Ted 2.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about the concept, I think the analysis is that the concept was great initially. Right. Second time around,
well, of course, can you sustain that over the course of two films? A dirty talking teddy bear, a dirty minded teddy bear. It plays for about 15 minutes, and maybe that's all. Might have made a funny short film.
Now here's another point, is that the ones that made it, the comedies this summer, were well written and well received critically. And by that I'm talking about Trainwreck and Spy. So don't write to me and say, hey, DeSando, you forgot these two. I'm telling you these two are rated, but how did they do so well? Because they were well written. And how do I know they were well written? Besides seeing it and hearing it, I know that my colleagues, hundreds of them, supported.
Well, I would say, based on both of those films, what elevates them above things like Vacation and
Get Hard,
and Ted, and the
Will
recent Will Ferrell flop, Get Hard, and is that those two movies may be R-rated, but they're not R-rated because they're just an excuse to string together a bunch of vulgar jokes and gags, set gags.
Yes, wonderful.
Which is what Vacation is. And I think audiences are just tired of that. How many, we've laughed at that stuff 100 times. It's time now for people to, writers, Hollywood, to put the ball in the writer's court and elevate the game a little bit.
Pushing bad taste is what's happening. Pushing it to its limits, and people are just saying, ho hum, please. It's like special effects.
Yeah.
You bring it so far, then people still want to go back to good story and good dialogue.
Right.
Although you now and then get a Hot Tub Time Machine 2, which is a totally bad movie. Yeah. But a year ago, let me give you the context that this article did. A year in 2013, We're the Millers took in $37 million over its first 5 days.
Yeah.
And that is an indication of why the suits still want to pursue these, because they've had these big hits, and they're figuring, that's it. But unless you really write it well, and it's not going to do it. Now I'm going to tell you one that I saw recently that's not even close to R-rated.
Okay.
This is People Places, Things.
Yes,
Jermaine Clement.
right. Of Flight of the Conchords fame.
Let me tell you, no raunchy jokes, no outlandish situations.
Right. I mean, is it R? It's not, is it? Is it R?
I don't, that's a good question.
An
I don't.
R-rated movie?
Yeah.
You know what? It doesn't matter. I'll tell you this.
I think it's your
it doesn't
point.
matter because it's not. It's not an R-rated comedy.
Exactly.
Even if it is R-rated and a comedy, it's not sold as
That's your
here's
point.
your R-rated comedy for the month. And that movie is obviously an independent movie. It's about, it explores this idea of single fatherhood in New York City, and there's a lot of other things at play there, rather than are we swimming in a sewage dump?
Well, and back to 2013.
And I was referring personally to our last excursion where we went swimming in a sewage dump.
That was dirty business.
Yeah,
Look at We're the Millers
unfortunate.
year. We're the Millers year was also the year for the incredible Burt Wonderstone.
Now that's a movie I'm sure no one even remembers.
And it was a big, big bomb. So
Yeah, and it had Steve Carell
Yeah.
and Jim Carrey in it, right?
Yeah, and my point is this is not an easy business because they continue to go on to have these movies, even though they have serious bombs along the way. And that's because they're tied to this idea of males and outrageous situations and vulgarity.
Yeah, I think definitely. We talked about this a few weeks ago, a few months ago, that where we're seeing some success in comedies especially are comedies headed up by women. So, we talked about
thank you,
Trainwreck,
yeah,
we talked
we did.
about Spy,
That's the actor.
and other Melissa McCarthy hits.
Yes.
All starting with Bridesmaids. So, I'm not even sure where I was going with that.
Well, let me add to that, to what we're talking about. Pitch
What were we
Perfect.
talking? We were talking about. I'm sorry.
I went back to two. Burt
Oh,
Wonderstone.
Burt Wonderstone. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the other thing is, Spy to me wasn't that great. It
Okay.
wasn't so smart. It wasn't so. It was different in her, along the lines of her recent output.
Okay.
It was certainly
Right.
a different
Yes,
film,
right.
but it wasn't gut-bustingly hilarious. It was.
No, it was not.
It was an amusing little romp. So I'm not sure how to explain why that particular Melissa McCarthy movie does so much better than, say, one of her, like Identity Theft.
For me, it was seeing her comedic possibilities, current and in the future. I thought she carried it off, but I would agree with you, there's nothing spectacular in that movie. It's nicely done, it's not too outrageous, it's enjoyable, but I was fixed on, and I'm trying to understand why she has grown to be such a mega star, and I saw it in that. Because I saw her capable of bringing off situations that were even romantic.
Mm-hmm.
And she is not romantically appealing to me. But she was
Why
to
not?
several males.
Why isn't she?
Well, there's too much of her.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You should edit that.
You asked me. You did.
I know. I was giving you.
did.
I was giving you a chance to skirt around that. I was giving you the. I was. You know what? You should be thanking me because I was giving you the opportunity to rise above typical heterosexual male ideas of
Well,
attraction.
let me tell you. Ask me that again.
Okay. There needs to be a version of that exists
Yeah.
somewhere, I hope. What is it? Why aren't you attracted to her?
I have not been attracted to her because I felt that her movies centered around her physical appearance.
Like making fun of her.
Correct.
Her physical appearance.
Yes, and
Really?
yes, and I thought that was an illegitimate way to present it. She's not Fatty Arbuckle, I mean, to
Yeah.
make it, and I thought they were riffing on that a bit too much.
Okay.
And this one,
Now wait a second. Okay, this is interesting to me because I read that early on. I read that Spy doesn't cash in on making fun of her physicality,
correct.
and yet I thought it did. I mean, I thought it was this. I don't. What's the difference? I don't. Do they make fat jokes about her in these movies? I haven't
No.
heard any of them. So Spy didn't do that, but it certainly derived a lot of its laughs from watching this woman who is not your physical, necessarily our culture's physical ideal, engage in these sort of action hero situations.
Her physical presence
Mhm.
contrasts with the other women in the film, who are traditionally gorgeous women, all right, and she is not. So you don't even have to make
Her
a joke.
friend isn't.
But she is certainly. Anyway, she doesn't have the heft that McCarthy
She's
does.
goofy looking.
Yeah, but McCarthy is the centerpiece of the film,
Uh-huh.
and she contrasts with others, particularly
Just-
bad girls.
Sure.
But you don't have to make a joke of that. It's just obvious that she doesn't belong.
Mm-hmm.
It's obvious that people have bypassed her, probably because of her looks.
Right.
And that's what I like to see.
Yeah, see, now that you say that, I think that that's at the heart of that movie, because she's attracted to Jude Law, and the whole time he's just oblivious to it, you know?
Yeah.
Right? So he's oblivious to it because he's not attracted to her.
Okay, yes. So it's implied. What you were suggesting is you don't have to make jokes about it. It's implied by her very presence. What I felt Spy did was to overcome that and to make it, you're comfortable with her as a proficient spy, regardless of what she looks like. And in fact, she has a beautiful face, and and the camera likes
Yeah,
that.
she's extraordinarily appealing.
Yeah.
Might I make a suggestion?
This is another one.
Let's go back and re-record the introduction to make sure this show is about Spy.
No, we can't. We already did Melissa.
I know. We're
All right, we're
spinning our wheels here.
No, but we are about ready to close this discussion of R-rated romantic comedies.
Now wait, now you threw in romantic comedies. What show? I thought
sorry.
this was just about R-rated comedies.
You're right. Let me repeat that because
Repeat
you're
that
absolutely
again.
right.
We're talking about raunchy comedies.
We're talking good R-rated comedies, and the wire service article that I read indicated they were in trouble.
I thought it was from the New York Times.
Well, I said wire service because I'm not sure it was.
I think it was.
Okay.
Because I looked it up.
Oh, did you? Good.
Yeah.
All right. So I saw in the New York Times, picking up from the New York Times, this analysis of romantic, listen, I'm always doing that. So I picked up from the New York Times the analysis of R-rated comedies for this summer, and that some of them that they thought were going to be big blockbusters were not.
Right.
And if one was an R-rated, it was because of ingredients other than raunchiness, of which Vacation is the best example.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the bottom line is here, as this studio executives have been using the word derivative to explain the rough patch that these comedies are facing at the box office, and derivative just is another word for unoriginal.
No,
Just
it's
start thinking smarter and writing better. That's all. Like to quote Woody Allen, the alien in Stardust Memories. You want to do the human race a service? Make funnier movies.
Oh, yes.